The lack of community, I want to reiterate, it's not a technology problem. It's, you know, what we're talking about, it's an interaction problem. So it's really tempting to see the word Twitter or Facebook, et cetera, and go, oh, we'll solve community with those online, and then start talking about Facebook. So hopefully we won't, you know, I just want you to step back and give yourself permission to think a little more theoretically today. Put all this, because, you know, it's a race to constantly learn about WIMBA, et cetera, and just say, hey, we need to start just thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do it. We need to interact, we need to start building some interaction here. And I don't care, I don't need to know. You hire somebody to implement a Facebook site for me. Give yourself permission not to know some of the technology and really focus on the principle of building interaction. And it's not just about building interaction between you and your students or student to student. When I'm talking about building community outside the classroom, I'm also talking about teacher to teacher, department to department. Also, very important, administrator to student, student to staff, staff to administrator. Yeah, it's kind of a wet dream, isn't it? I'm the first one who ever made that point. We need to make administration more responsive. Oh, sorry. Having finally become an administrator, I realize I don't respond either. And it is about saving time. This isn't about adding on to your workload. It seems counterintuitive, but some of these approaches we're talking about are saying, hey, great, you know, there's an orientation session. You know, I'm going to get a chance to, I'm going to a lecture my department sponsors once a semester. I'm actually getting to be on the student side. I'm not having to run WIMBA, I'm just participating in it. Hey, I'm using the tools it takes to interact. I'm learning about this technology. The point is, when you go back into your classroom, you might actually use a synchronous tool, which can save a load of time. A lot of people don't use synchronous tools because they're just not comfortable with it. You know, we saw a presentation today about a load of Blackboard tools, but you know, I would venture to say a lot of you don't use a lot of those tools. It's not because they're not available, it's because you need an opportunity to build comfort, and that's what you can do outside the classroom. You know, building community outside the classroom for instructors means not just an orientation session, but, you know, like, for example, we're just having a casual brown bag lunch virtually, I'm getting to use the tools. A couple other, 3 myths that I kind of saw in the comments when I ran the survey, and again, I'll just open these up. You can discuss these whether you agree with these or not, but they seem to be myths. One is that a lot of people say online learners understand what they're getting into. They just should expect not to have this kind of connection. You know, you get what you pay for. I just want you to entertain the notion that maybe that's blaming the victim. Okay, it was great 10 years ago when only 5% of the world was doing education online, and they were people maybe who were, you know, in Caribou, Maine, couldn't get down to Portland, Maine. But now there are, you know, everybody. You know, we have a whole span of learners. We have the extroverts, the introverts, and if we're selling it to them, we probably got to start supporting it in the same way instead of just taking their money and then saying, you know what you were getting into? You're on an island. Deal with it. I had to drive all the way down here today just to get some interpersonal relationships going. A lot of people say, hey, you know, and this is true, you probably, as you've taught classes, you've noticed some people really are like, I feel lonely, I need interaction. Other people are like, I don't want it. Well, the research also shows that even the people who are like, I don't want to have to be best buddies with everybody else in my classroom, still show that they're not satisfied with their connection with their professors. Okay? So just because they don't want a wider community, they still want a smaller community. And again, how can community building outside the classroom affect that? Well, right now in the program, when my Blackboard site ends, my professors disappear. And if I'm an inspired individual, maybe I email them, or, you know, my last semester I realized, wow, I can use the phone device. And I felt guilty, like I was interrupting somebody. We need to maybe systematize this so there's just more connections, even for that learner who doesn't want to be buddies with everybody. There's still ways to get to the professors and the student. The other point is Dr. Everly, Dr. Colorado, I never took them in class because I'm an online learner. Does it mean I should never interact with them? Do I only get to, you know, these are some of the barriers that if I'm seeing them outside the classroom in lectures and brown bags, maybe I'm so excited about what I'm seeing, I'll take their course. So anyway, you get the point, hopefully. If not, it was my fault. That's my rant. See, he said you were going to get out of here early, and then you're like, okay. This is simple. This is kind of what it says. Some resources don't exist. Some do, and you don't know about them. When I started my project, I started hunting around the website, and I was like, hey, man, there are actually some of these things I've been complaining about, but I didn't know about them. And, you know, then the answer was like, you should have hunted around our website to find this. Could have sent people postcards, pictures of ESU on them. I wouldn't have recognized what was in the pictures, but I could have done that. I was looking for fun, but little did I know there's actually a website that's Emporia.edu/fun. It wasn't in the admissions packet I received, so I didn't go have fun. Had no idea there was a graduate student newsletter speaking to all these needs I had. Same thing. You know, again, there are a lot of resources out there. And caveat, this is not to blame individuals. It may sound like, oh, Emporia State's not doing this right. This is happening everywhere. So,
okay, I came across something a couple of months ago. Maybe I'll throw this out to you and see what you think. We are developing, now a few of us here in this room, a program with Hutchinson Community College. They have an online program for associate's degrees, and they want to piggyback with our online BIS degrees. So anyway, we went there to visit with them. And they have something online they call the Dragon's Lair. I think I said that right. They're the dragons. That's their mascot. And that's an online, I won't call it a course. It's kind of just an online place with chat rooms and resource links and calendar of events and a whole source of things designed specifically for their online students to just go and hang out. And I had, you know, we've talked this week here about having a student lounge sort of a thing for a particular course, but we're thinking we want to do something like that for our BIS program. So in addition to a course, here's more of a social place, right, where people can go. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yeah, and you know, we'll reveal a little bit more about.
They got to look all over our website to find that stuff instead of it all in one place.
Yeah. This is a solution. Again, I'll even step back a moment. Like we're going to later, we'll talk a little bit about social networking sites, for example. You can imagine that as a place to go. Yeah, we need to build some of those tools, but we also need to structure the incentives to go to those places. You know, we saw a presentation, again, I'll cite the Blackboard presentation. I need to learn how to use Blackboard, technologically speaking, but I also need to learn how to use it as a human being, as a teacher who wants to teach an idea. And I would say it kind of applies to community in that it's not enough to put up a social networking site. It's some of the solutions I'm talking about are very non-technological. They're, for example, have the department schedule a semesterly lecture. That's not about putting up a social networking site. It's creating an event. Right. That drives people to use the technology and form the relationships, and that's really important. When I say it's not a technology, it's an interaction. We often think two things. I hear this all the time. Hey, maybe if we put up this piece of technology, does that kind of solve it? And that's not a problem. That's just what most people are doing. And I want you to say, stop yourself and go, wait a minute. I'm trying to solve this with a piece of technology. I really need to talk to some other human beings and build an approach instead. And the other thing is well, we'll just leave it at that.